Tremendous here, and I got another book review here for you. This one is a little different. This is not something I would typically read, but I did, and hang on. It's called Parachute Island, and it's by Leferio A. Gomez III. I really hope I'm not messing that up. I apologize, Mr. Gomez, if I am. Not intentional. I'm just an ugly American. I got it with my Kindle Unlimited subscription, but it looks like you can get it for $3.99 in ebook format or $7.99 in paperback. It is about 266 pages long. It was published in November of 2019, and it is in the teen, young adult categories and fantasy categories on Amazon. However, I do not believe that this is a teen or young adult book, and I will get into that right away. The author reached out to me via a Facebook group that I'm a part of and asked me if I would review his book. I happily did. I did ask him because I saw the cover, and I did ask him if it was a kid's book, a young adult, children's book, something like that, because the cover made me believe it might be. And he said it does have kids as a focal point, but that he didn't write it as a young adult or children's book or anything like that. It is very adult, and he didn't lie. He didn't lie at all. I don't believe that this is a kid's book. I don't believe this is a young adult book. I believe this is 100% an adult book, and it is a wonderful story. I really like this book a lot, and it surprised me. It surprised me that I did. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. So the story starts off, and you're getting the perspective of a 14-year-old girl named Megan. And again, when I first started reading this, I was like, this guy lied to me. This is a kid's book. This is a young adult book. Nope, he didn't lie. This is an excellent book. And just like you see on the cover, she's floating down from the sky with a parachute, right? And she lands on an island. Are we getting it? Cool. Now, I don't want to go into a lot of detail with the non-spoiler side of this review because I want you to read this book. Even if you're not into this genre, which honestly I would say it's closer to fantasy, but low fantasy. Just, it's a really good story. It's set in the modern day. But it's not in our day. You really need to read this book. It's not a long read. It's a very easy read, and it's a great read. Like I said, you start the book off you're getting the viewpoint of Megan, and she's been through some stuff. She's your typical 14-year-old girl that has issues, okay? And she's put on an island with other children who all have one major thing in common, and you figure that out really quick. This book does not make you wait. It doesn't over embellish or get wordy or anything like that. Every last paragraph is meat. It is a big, juicy story you get to sink your teeth into, and just it holds on to you. You know, I read on the train. I've got like a 40 to 60 minute train ride every day, and so I read there. And I didn't want the train ride to end because I wanted to keep reading. So it really holds on to you. Now, full disclosure, this book's tone, the tempo of this book is extremely sad. It's a tragic book. It really is. And it doesn't shy away from that. I won't say that it tackles adult issues, but it hits on just about every major issue an adult faces in today's world, from like child abuse, suicide, drug use, paralysis, school shootings. It hits on all those buzzwords, all those subjects. It doesn't tackle them. It doesn't cure them. It doesn't go, oh, and this is the way to fix it. The author does not try to get that point across at all, but it kind of shows how it affects these kids. And even there's one adult on the island named David Munoz. I think I'm saying that right. David's a good guy. He's just a genuine good guy. He's got a wife that he loves a whole heck of a lot. And he's on the island to basically be a chaperone for all these kids, to take care of them until it's time for them to leave the island. And you'll have to read the book or wait for my spoiler side of the review in order to figure out why, because I don't want you to hear the spoilers. I want you to get this book, read it, come back. I want to talk about this book. I want to have a huge conversation in the comment section or via email or whatever, because I enjoy the book. I enjoyed this book so much. I was 70 or 80% of the way through it, and I texted my wife and I'm like, you've got to read this book. It's blowing me away. I'm a full-grown man with plenty of emotional issues that I keep buried deep down inside. I'm on a public transport and I'm trying not to cry. It's like, oh, football. Just, nope, I have to stop. That's how good, that's how moving this book is. It's super good. It does have a few... It's really, really good, but the ending falls a little flat. It's not a bad ending, it's just... The entire book is a struggle. You know, the story is, there's a lot of pushback, there's a lot of flack, there's a lot of just difficulty. And in the end, it all kind of goes away. I actually messaged the author and I told him what my issues and stuff like that. So it's not like this would be the first time he hears it if he watches this. But the ending falls, in my opinion, a little bit flat. And while it's not a bad ending, in my opinion, with the overall feel of this book and the adversity and everything like that, the fact that the ending was so clean, so easy after all the difficulty the character had getting to where the ending took place, I didn't like it. I felt like the rug got pulled out from under me a little bit. And in the beginning of the book, the writing and the editing and everything is really, really good. But as you get to about the middle of the book, and especially towards the end, the editing, you start to notice a lot more mistakes. You start noticing a lot more issues. And so this book could have done with maybe one more proofread or an editor doing just one more sweep. It went past the normal amount. It was kind of... It was jarring towards the end, especially. Not bad by a long shot. I've read a lot worse, but it passed that point. The story was golden. The story, the writing, the way it was delivered, wonderful. Loved all that, but it could have used with another pass from an editor, and the ending should have been better. It should have been more difficult for the character to get the result that he was trying to get, instead of it honestly just kind of been given to him. And I'll get into it in the spoilers, but please, please, please go read this book. I'm going to give it 4.5 stars, and I'm keeping that half star back from a 5-star rating because of the ending and the editing. It just, like I said, it just went too far. I would love to give this book 5 stars, but the ending and the editing was just... It was too much wrong, in my opinion, that then I could comfortably, integrity-based, remember, reviews, I couldn't comfortably give a 5-star, no matter how much I really wanted to, because how much I love this story. It's just, honestly, it's a 4.5-star book. And I told the author this, and he didn't argue it for a second. Seems like a real decent guy. So... I'm going to say, I've said this before, but I'm going to say it with this one. Stop watching. Turn the video off, pause it, go get this book. It's not expensive at all. You'll pay more for a value meal tomorrow than you will to purchase this wonderful story. I don't get anything for this, okay? I'm not getting kickbacks. I don't get any royalties from this. That's not something I would allow, even if it was offered, which it was not. Go read this book, come back, then watch the spoiler section, then let's have a conversation, because I really, really want to talk about this book. It's a wonderful story. I'm going to go ahead and play an ad real quick, and I'm going to get into the spoiler section. So go read the book, watch the ad, listen to the spoilers, and then let's talk. All right, in case you guys didn't already know, I am a self-published author, which is why I'm so passionate about self-published books. It's available on Amazon.com and paperback, Kindle, and Kindle Unlimited. If you're interested, the link's in the description. I'd really appreciate it checked out, left a review. So get ready, spoilers are coming up next, so if you're still here and the music stops, it's your fault. All right. So I assume it's been a few days since you watched the non-spoiler side. You've bought the book, you've read the book, and now you're going to see what my opinion is of it on the spoiler side, and then we're going to have a conversation. And if not, shame on you. The link is in the description below. Get the book and come back. Go on. Go. Okay, you're back. So the book starts off, like I said, you're in the perspective of a 14-year-old girl named Megan. She's floating down on a parachute to this island that's literally got a big bullseye on it. It does. I'm not making that up. And the parachute kind of guides itself to this island, right? It takes her to the island. She lands, no problem. And when she lands, the parachute dissolves into like gossamer and then disappears, right? All these kids have swarmed out to the to the bullseye to greet Megan when she comes. They're all very happy to see her. They're all very warm and friendly and shaking her hand and trying to give her hugs. And she's like, what the hell's going on? And they're like, oh, you're new to the island, and it's like they know something, but they're not supposed to tell her. So this one kid, I love this kid. His name is Walter Hammond, but everybody calls him Ham. He's a little fat dude, like 10 years old, and the dude is just a beach ball of charisma. I love him. And he grabs her, and he's like, she's my new best bud. Get out of the way. I'm taking her to David. Well, David is like the only adult on the island. And he's like the chaperone. He's the guy that's, I don't want to say in charge, but he helps all the kids that are there. He takes care of, make sure they're all dealt with, plays, all that good stuff. And he was the first. He was the guy that came to this island first, and he helps out the kids. There was a note on the tree or on the island that said, "Hey, you're gonna take care of these kids until which time they're taken off the island, and you'll do this until." Well, we tell you don't have to anymore. So he's a good guy. He's a good-hearted, decent guy, and you find out pretty quick that the reason all these kids are on this island is because they died. All of them, hundreds of kids on this island, and David, you are led to believe they all died. And when Megan thinks about it, she remembers she got killed because she was running across the street and got hit by a bus. She remembers it. Walter died because of diabetes. He went to a diabetic coma and died. Some of the kids died because of the flu. Some of the kids died because negligent parents. Literally, 2 little girls got killed because their mom threw them in the car, didn't buckle them up, and was messing around with her cell phone while she was driving. They got hit by a train. I mean, this book does not pull any punches. You're like, oh my God. David believes he's dead, but he doesn't remember how he died. He just knows that he was married to a wonderful woman named Ellie, and he hopes to see her again one day, but he's on the island and he's taking care of kids, which is ironic because he never wanted any kids. Like, his wife really, really did, but he never did, and so he thinks it's kind of ironic that he's on the island taking care of these kids. He has no idea who put him there. He has no idea why he was chosen to be put there, but the island has a way of just kind of making you happy and docile with the situation. So he's never really tried to get off. There's a barrier around the entire island. Nobody can get off. You can run and jump off a cliff. You run into like this little rubbery barrier and it bounces you back onto the island and you're totally safe. You can climb the tallest tree, jump off of it, and like an invisible hand catches you and brings you back down to the island. You're totally fine. You can't be hurt on this island. Your feelings can be hurt and stuff, sure, but nobody stays angry or depressed or sad on this island for very long. Maybe it's something you pump into the air. I'm not really sure. It doesn't explain that other than it just is what it is. So Megan isn't super thrilled. She's upset. The kids on this island are on this island because there's nobody in the next step, whether it's heaven or the afterlife or whatever it is. It doesn't really ever say because nobody really knows, but the kids are on this island because there's nobody in the afterlife after the island to take care of them. There's no adults or anything like that to watch over them, so they stay on the island under the care of David and everything until somebody dies in our world and can take care of them. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, parents, whatever. So, and also, I don't believe the kids age. So that's a little interesting. I thought that was a very odd twist, but it's just the whole concept is like, whoa. So, needless to say, Megan spends some time there, 3, 4 years. She makes some friends. She's one of 4 teenagers. One of the teenagers, the oldest one, is this 15-year-old kid, this guy, and he was from the UK. I mean, it's like I said, this book hits some really hard-hitting issues. And his dad was an alcoholic and a supremely abusive alcoholic, and he would beat on him, and he would beat on kids. Kevin's mom, the 15-year-old's name was Kevin, and one day he beat his mom so bad she went to the hospital, and Kevin felt so bad that he didn't do anything about it. He killed himself, got a gun, and blew his head off. And that's what he's doing in Parachute Island, because there's nobody there yet that can come and take care of him. So they hang out with 2 others, Darlene and Peter, I believe, as well as Ham. Ham is the 10-year-old that hangs out with the teenagers, but Ham's awesome, so I don't want to hear it. And they're all hanging out. Well, eventually, Kevin's mom is killed by her husband, Kevin's dad, and he gets a note, and it's like, Kevin, you're leaving the island, and this big hot air balloon shows up and takes him off the island, and Kevin's got to deal with that. He's like, how do I explain to my mom why I killed myself? And how do I face her knowing that she suffered at the hands of my dad alone for who knows how long until he finally killed her? And there's no real answer to that. Like they give him the you'll know what to say. She's not going to care. She's going to love you anyway. And blah, blah, blah. He's terrified. He's terrified to go see his mom, but he gets on the hot air balloon and he goes off, and you never really find out what happens. But that's what makes this story so powerful. I mean, you're hitting with this stuff and you're getting it from a child's perspective, a teenager's perspective, granted, but still, it's like, oh man. And the whole book is like that, I mean, kids are upset because they're all dead. Their stories ended way before they were supposed to, and it never lets you forget that. The author is excellent. He never lets you forget that. As high as the highs are, and as low as the lows are, you never forget at any point that, yeah, these kids are dead, and they're upset. They don't have anyone here. They get dreams of their families and friends, of how they're dealing with their deaths down on Earth, and it's rough. It's rough, So one of the things that this island does, they all stay on this big tree a la Peter Pan. And one of the things that the tree does, other than take care of all their needs, it cooks, it cleans, it makes julienne fries. It does everything. Yes, they do need to eat still. They do need to drink, and they also need to sleep. I thought that was a little odd, but it fits, and I had no problem with it. It was just a little odd that in the afterlife they would still have those carnal needs, but, well, I shouldn't say carnal, those basic needs, sorry. There is no dirty stuff in this book, just in case you were wondering. There's nothing like that whatsoever. But it's just strange to me, because you would think that those would no longer be needs. They're dead. Their bodies aren't growing. They don't age, but it never really addresses it. It just is what it is. But the tree also, I think, once a day grants one of the kids on the island a wish, and it's totally at random. And it grants whatever wish you want. That's the rule. It's like, yeah, whatever you want, you get. It doesn't matter what it is. Some kids wish for dinosaurs. Some wish for 1,000,000 puppies. Some wish for a bubble machine that makes you fly. Ham wishes for a bunch of fireflies to completely envelop you and make you fly. It's interesting, but it's very childish stuff. And in case you're wondering, no, there's not animals all over the place. The tree only lets animals stick around for a day, and then they all disappear. They don't die or anything like that. They just cease to exist. So it's Megan's turn. And Megan has been telling everybody she got hit by a bus while she was trying to cross the street, and that's how she died. Kind of true, mostly true. She did get hit by a bus, and she did get killed, but the reason that she was running across the street and all this other stuff is because Megan was a bad kid. I'm sorry, it's true. She was. She ran away from home because her parents wouldn't let her do what she wanted to do. And what she wanted to do was smoke weed, do Molly, this is straight out of a book, and make out with boys that were much older than her in her bedroom with the door closed. And her parents wouldn't allow that. So Megan threw a fit, ran away. She was gone for, I think it was a week, and she was crossing the street because she thought she could make it, and she was wrong, and she died for her indecision. Now, no, I'm not saying that she deserved what she got or anything. I don't think that she did anything that deserved death, but it's like, oh, so you were, and she's got a lot of guilt for, being a terrible daughter. I mean, I hate to say it. She doesn't exist, so back off. But it's one of those things where it's like, oh, so she's got a lot of guilt for that. She also is having dreams where she sees like her mother and her grandmother and how her father are basically ruined by this. That she was their only daughter. She didn't have any brothers or sisters or anything like that. Dad becomes bitter. And that comes into play later. Mom is just ruined. Her grandmother is just done, just emotionally drained and shot. And she knows that. She carries a lot of guilt. So when it's her turn to make a wish, she wishes to go back to Earth to tell her parents she's sorry. That's all she wants. She doesn't want to come back to life. She just wants to go down like as a ghost or a dream or something like that and explain herself and say she's sorry. Well, the tree, for the first time in history, tells one of the kids no. It literally just sends a message to her, to everybody that says, no child can leave the island. No child can leave the island. She tries it a few times, and when the third time the tree says no, she throws a little bit of a hissy fit, understandable, and goes off to her room to be upset. Again, I get it. Well, David goes and talks to her, because like I said, David's a real good guy, and eventually he promises her that he'll try to do something about that. So he goes to the tree and he tells the tree, listen, I've never asked for anything the whole time I've been here. Grant this wish. Grant this wish this one time. And the tree tells him no kid can leave the island, but David can leave the island. It'll send him back so he can deliver this message, but it's not going to be something that he likes. It's not going to be something easy, and he's going to be miserable the entire time. But if he's willing to do it, the tree will allow it this one time. And David agrees. He tells everybody about it, and the next day he comes back to life. And by comes back to life, he's been in a coma for 4 years, and he comes out of it. He was in a terrible car accident. His wife, Ellie, that he loves more than anything, died in this car accident. He was driving 2 semis, squish. It was bad. And it tells in graphic detail what happened to them. Ellie dies right in front of him, and then he blacks out after rebarb goes through his neck. Yeah, not a kid's book. Don't care what anybody says. This is not a kid's book, not a young adult book. This is definitely an adult book. Anyway, he woke up after 4 years, and he's a paraplegic, and his whole left side doesn't work. He's got a colostomy bag. He's got a catheter. He's got to go around in a motorized wheelchair. This poor guy is in constant neurological pain on his entire left side every day that he's awake. He goes through about 12 weeks of physical therapy until, honestly, the insurance companies just won't pay for it anymore. But he's not destitute or anything like that. He's got his father. His mom is dead. I don't remember how. I want to say natural causes. He's got a younger sister. She comes and visits from California. They're in Texas, and his dad sued the construction company that was responsible for his death, or his wife's death in his accident, and they gave him $30 million. They settled out of court for $30 million. So he's got money. He's got means. He just doesn't have faculties. What he also has is all the memories of the island, all the kids that he met, all the stuff that he did, because he's having trouble believing that it actually happened. Like, part of him is like, yes, it happened. The other part of him is like, no, it didn't. Eventually, he starts having visions and memories, especially from his dead wife, that are like, no, this really happened. And he doesn't truly believe it until the very last day of his physical therapy, when the lady working on his speech, he sees a picture of one of his kids on her desk, and she's been dead for 3 years, and he knows all this stuff. And the nurse believes him. Like, he knew stuff that only, her daughter would know, or her husband, and there's no way this guy talked to any of them. So all of a sudden, he kind of starts getting out there as the guy that knows about, what happened in the afterlife with some of these dead kids. And he starts trying to connect with some people. A few of the people he doesn't like. The spoiler before about the two young girls who died in a car accident because their mom didn't put them in seatbelts and was talking on her phone while she was driving. She was texting on her phone or something like that while she was driving. That's why they got hit by a train. She comes to him at his house and he slams the door in her face like, GTFO, and I don't blame him. She was a negligent, selfish person. I'm sorry. If you're not going to buckle your kids in, you're going to text on your phone while you're driving, you're the problem. And if you don't like that, well, break your mirrors, because I wouldn't want to look at you either. But the book hits on that. The book hits those things. It doesn't tackle them, but it brings up all those, really difficult things, and it's something else. It really is. So anyway, he goes through all that, and he starts to kind of become this. They call him like a medium, but he tells her, but he's not. But eventually, he's trying to make the world a better place. He's trying to help people, and he's also trying to make contact with Megan's family to try to tell them, give her message. And the first time he tries, he runs into the father, who is just a broken man. He's angry at everything, and he doesn't believe David, understandably. And he threatens David. He doesn't hurt him, but the threat of violence is very obvious. David tries again a little bit later, and again he actually makes first contact with the mom through one of his employees, because he's got a team to help him do A and B. But again, his employee is talking to the mom, and the dad comes to the door, makes a bunch of threats, and slams the door in the guy's face. So David's like, I tried, but it is what it is. So he goes about trying to help other people. He ends up building a charity in his wife's name to help, hurt and ill and abused kids. And they start this whole thing. But his health is failing bad. And he gets another vision from his wife that's like, we're not talking again ever until you deal with this, until you make your promise, you keep your promise. And it's just, it's this, it punches you in the heart a lot, this story. So he's sick. He's dying. It's very obvious. His body's is finally just done. And he leaves his house. He doesn't really tell any of his employees or his father or his sister or anything like that where he's going. And he goes back to Megan's parents' house. He kind of stakes it out for 24 hours. He sleeps outside, which is not good for him. His colostomy bag bursts while he's in a burger joint, and he gets kicked out gently. The owner's not a bad guy, but he's still got a restaurant, and there's a guy with a busted colostomy bag eating at one of his tables. You get asked to leave when that. Plus, he kind of looks bad. He looks rough. He's been sleeping under an overhang for a couple of days. So he goes back over to the house, and here's where the end of the book, because everything has been a struggle. Everything has been difficult, period. Like, even when you were in Megan's perspective, when you get to David's perspective, nothing gets easier at all. He's got $30 million and a handful of employees and a devoted father, and people are believing, his story, even though it kind of blows up in his face, and he ends up getting a little bit of trouble. But, yeah. The end of the book, he just kind of hangs out there for a little while, and then as he knows he's about to die, he wheels himself into the open garage of Megan's parents' house. The dad is gone, but the mom and the grandma is there. Their dog is there, and he delivers his message, and he dies. And my problem with that is his promise was to tell all of Megan's mom and dad that she's sorry, to deliver that message. And I talked to the author about this. Well, I messaged the author about this. I told him, it just seemed too easy. It seemed too simple that all he had to do is wait 24 hours or so and motor into an open garage where mom was sitting there for whatever reason, and grandma came out and nobody had a problem with it, and everybody was super happy, and then he could die peacefully. I wanted to see him have to really reach the father, because the promise was to tell mom and dad. He never reaches the father. He never completely fulfills his promise. Not to any real fault of his own. The dad is a broken man and he just wasn't having it. But I wanted to see that struggle. I wanted to see that breakthrough, because the whole book builds up to this point, and you really think you're going to have a great conflict with a resolution and just satisfied, but it didn't happen that way. He talked to the mom and grandma and the dog, and they believe him. They cry, and he dies, and It was flat to me. It deflated the whole thing for me, and that hurt a bit. My opinion, again, read the book, tell me what you think. So then he goes back, he's dead, he goes back, he's parachuting onto the island, and when he gets there, he lands, all the kids are thrilled to see him, everybody, thanks him for being a hero, Megan is super happy, thanks him, and who comes out, because there was somebody taking care of it, there was another adult taking care of the kids while he was gone, and it's none other than Ellie. And while I saw that coming, it's what I wanted. So he's thrilled, she's thrilled, and you can reasonably assume that they spend the rest of eternity on this island taking care of all these kids as they come and go. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal story. I just talked about it for, a half hour. Trust me. It's a great story. You really got to check it out. And I'm sticking to my 4.5 stars because the ending fell a little flat, which is huge. It's a big deal. If your ending falls flat, it can. I don't want to say it ruined the story because it didn't, but it can hurt the story, which I believe it did. It should have been more of a struggle. It should have been a battle of words, not physical, but verbal back and forth, where David had to push through his own pain and the fact that his body was dying to reach this guy, to get through. Listen, you stubborn asshole, your daughter has a message, and what's it going to hurt to hear it? I know things that nobody else knows. I don't want anything. Something to get through to the father, to give him the peace that Megan made him promise to give. And I didn't like that there was no struggle. I didn't like the way it was just and scene. The whole book is a struggle, and that part it didn't fit right with the story, in my opinion. It's not my story, it's not my book, it's just my opinion, and that's where I think it should have went. No harm, no foul, but I gotta stick to the 4.5 star rating. And towards the end of the middle and the end of the book, the editing gets a little weak, to the point where it's like, I'm catching too many editing mistakes. The author is fully aware, and he's working on getting an editor to fix that up. So he's totally aware, totally agrees. So it's not like I'm blowing smoke or anything like that. So all in all, this book is a solid 4.5 stars easily. And it's a tremendous read. It really is. I cannot encourage you to read this book enough. I even urged my wife, who's going to read this book, and I typically don't do that. So we just have different tastes. It's so good, though. Such a powerful book. Although I am well aware that these are all just my opinions, and I am not the definitive authority on things like that. So again, please check this book out yourself. The link is in the description below. Read it, come back, and let's have a conversation. Because like I said in the non-spoiler side, I want to talk about this book. So, yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Parachute Island's review is officially in the history books. As always, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or complaints, feel free to put them in the comments section below, and I will get back to you as quick as I can. And as always, thanks.